time with family, staying active, doing what you love. We understand how important it is to live your best life, even as times are changing. At Holzer, we strive to help every patient achieve their best health during every stage of life. With more options for care through in-person and virtual visits, we are dedicated to providing you with excellent care every time. Live your best life with Holzer.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Talk of the Town podcast, episode 16, brought to you by Holzer Health System and the Gallia County Chamber of Commerce. Josh Wellington, and I am joined today by quite possibly the busiest person in Gallia County. Josh Bodimer joins us. Josh, thanks for coming in, man.
Well, thanks for having me, Josh, and glad to be here, and it's an honor to be here, and this is a great thing you're doing, and right up your alley, so excited to be here.
Well, let's get started. Everybody knows, I'm sure, that knows you. You got the real estate, the auction. You're active on every committee and board, and we'll touch on some of that. But the two, I guess, the main components of what you do, what people see you doing anyway, is the auctioneering and the real estate. So which came first for you?
Well, auctioneering came first. I was in 4-H, many years ago, and I wanted to show pigs when I was a kid, and parents would, they wouldn't quite let me for a while. So I showed a goat. Finally got them talked in and let me show a goat. And that didn't end up too good. I ended up having to carry the goat around in the middle of the ring. So that was kind of embarrassing. So finally got them talked into letting me take some pigs, and so my dad would get somebody to get some hogs for us, or for me, and so we did that for a couple of years, and then I didn't really do very good, showing them as far as placing, and I'm kind of a little bit competitive, so I thought, well, maybe I could do better and go pick them out myself.
Right. So
finally, I figured out and got a ride with another buddy of mine, and actually Rob Woodward, and we went up to Washington Courthouse, and I'd never been to an auction before, and Kevin Went was the auctioneer, and he did pretty much all the auctions at Washington Courthouse Fairgrounds, Fayette County Fairgrounds. Well, as soon as he started his auction chant, I got chill bumps and was glued to watching him and listening to him, and went to about every auction I could possibly go to, and just kind of continued that. And then it got to the point where I recorded, him auctioneering, and then there's auction schools throughout the country. Missouri Auction School's a real big auction school, and they had some tapes at the time, and I sent off, and this is back in the day of cassette players.
Tapes, right?
Yeah. So got the cassette, and just kind of, they taught about, the auction chant, and so, always kind of dabbled in it for fun while I was in elementary and high school and junior high and college, and then it kind of became a deal where, as far as the real estate goes, when I was looking for college, a place to go to college,
right.
My goal was to be a big-time auctioneer. I wanted to be like
Right.
Kevin Went. Kevin Went sold livestock, farm equipment, real estate, and all that stuff. So I was looking at agriculture schools, and I looked at a bunch of different schools, and then I went down to Morehead State, and they actually had the only college-credited auctioneering class in the country at the time.
Wow, perfect fit.
Yeah, and so that was one thing that attracted me to Morehead, and also they had a really good agricultural college there. But the dean or the admissions people, whatever, that kind of set me up, they said, the new wave of auctioneering is also to have your real estate license, and I've always kind of been a little bit interested in real estate growing up as well, not, near as much as auctioneering. But Moorhead also had one of the very only 4-year programs in real estate. You could actually graduate with a real estate degree.
Oh, wow.
So it's business administration with an emphasis in real estate. So I met up with the real estate dean, and we hit it off, and I just fell in love with the community there in Moorhead, Kentucky, and all the actually the ag school too, but I ended up deciding not to go the agriculture route and just stayed on that real estate track all the way through. So that's kind of how the whole auctioneering and real estate came into effect. And then whenever I was getting close to graduating, I knew I wanted to sell real estate, and I didn't know if it was going to be here or where. And,
Right.
my graduation present was my mom and dad just let me kind of take the year off after college.
Right. What is now, I think, termed a gap year.
Yeah, okay.
That's the new trendy thing for the kids who don't want to go to college for that first time.
I see.
Yeah, I'm going to take a gap year.
Yeah. So I took a gap year.
You were a pioneer of the gap year.
Yep. Just fished for the first year and then tried to just kind of decide what I wanted to do. And, I was looking at bigger cities and different things like that. My mom mentioned, because I remember looking at houses with my mom and dad when they were looking for houses with Dave Wiseman and Ike Wiseman. And my mom suggested to maybe just go talk to Dave. And so I did talk to Dave, and then he was pretty persistent after that. So I've been at Wiseman Real Estate now for, next year, hard to believe, in March, it'll be 18 years. So,
Wow.
So it's been a blessing.
When you did the auctioneer school, did you still have to apprentice when you came back, or?
Yes, so I apprenticed actually in I got my apprentice license, I think, let's see, when did I get my apprentice license? I was doing my apprenticeship while I was in college with Les Limley and Will Church and Wilbur Church. And so, yes, and you had to do an apprenticeship. To get your auction, that's still the same way. You have to go to auctioneering school.
Okay.
And I went to Reppert's auctioneering school in Auburn, Indiana. And it's like a 2-week schooling.
Okay.
And then you have to take your apprentice test, and then once you pass that, then you have to serve your apprenticeship with a sponsoring auctioneer, and then you have to be a part of 12 different auction sales and kind of participate in that. And then you take a verbal auctioneering test where you actually do your chant in front of the auction commission, and a written test. And then once you do that, you have to get like a bond or something like that for the first few years, and you can practice auctioneering after that. So
You use your auction skills to give back a lot. There's, whether it's school auctions or our auction or annual awards coming up. Why is that important to you, to use your skills and talent back into the community when it comes to these, fall festivals and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I guess it came down to a point where just a light bulb went off in my head. I felt, God gave me this talent. I better put it to use one way or another, whether it be giving back or, whatever I can do to help out. And so, that's, I guess why I just like to kind of, help out. I guess that's just how I was shaped or brought up, and if I can help somebody out and raise a little bit of money, and they make a difference in someone else's life, then I felt like I've done what I was wanting to do there. So
back to the real estate side, have you ever seen a situation like we're currently in when it comes to the housing market?
No. I've not seen it, and Dave Wiseman's been in it longer than I have. He's not seen it, and it's just an amazing and very Wild West is what I call it,
Right.
market right now. I mean, it's when COVID hit in 2020, we were pre-COVID, we were in a pretty strong market already.
Right.
Really, actually, a very strong market, and then once COVID hit, it was very hard to predict what was going to happen. A lot of realtors out there kind of just quit showing houses. I mean, in which I'm nothing against that. It's because it was just unpredictable, and we didn't we had to really change the way we showed houses. We had to disinfect the doorknobs, wear gloves. I mean, there was just so many different things. I even did some videos on how we show houses now. And so yeah, it was very unpredictable, but and it was like that for a little bit, but the market was still strong. And then when I think once people kind of got the hang of what that did do is that it kicked in supercharged, I would say, the virtual component of real estate, as far as being a little more technologically advanced, and getting houses pictured well, videos, because what we're seeing as now, fast forward to now, as a result of this, a lot of these jumbo big companies out across the United States are basically kind of liquidating their brick and mortar, gigantic buildings that they're, got a lot of overhead involved in, and sending everybody home and just equipping them with technology to work from home. And that home doesn't necessarily need to be in the same community that they lived in. So now they're branching out and going, leaving where they were, because the only reason they were there was to work there and had to be there and had to go to their office. Mm-hmm. Well, now they can go anywhere in the country as long as they have high-speed internet. And that has really supercharged not only Gallia County, but rural properties, Appalachia properties, and really rural America. It seems like a lot of people that are, only living in the city to work there, now they can go and, have a little 6 or 7 or 10, 100 acre, piece of ground. And, so yeah, that's really fueled that. There's a lot of other components that I'd be glad to discuss if you want me to, that is fueling the market right now. But it's definitely it's a wild market. The inventory's low, but
and what inventory is out there? Not to interrupt you, it's not staying there for very long.
Right. Yep. And we say the inventory's low, but the amount of sales have been a lot higher. If you look back even 3 years ago to now, I mean, just our sales have been considerably up, maybe 25%, and some of that's the prices that's went up, when you're looking at it a dollars volume perspective, but, versus a amount of transactions, closing wise, we're still having, now I will say, like me personally, I've had about 10 less transactions this year opposed to last year, but almost $1.5 million more in volume of sales. So the prices showed me that the prices have went up, so.
And that could be the competitive market. Mm-hmm. More people looking for that smaller inventory. And I think, people don't realize in this area, the way it was, if you listed you were selling your home and you listed it for, let's say, $200,000, you knew in your head you were going to take one whatever, and then somebody came in, made you an offer, you settled in the middle or worked accordingly. But there was that play. Mm-hmm. Whereas outside of here, when you got into places like Columbus or Charlotte or somewhere, list price was base. Uh-huh. And so there was you came in with the expectation of, if I'm asking 200, I could get 215 or something. And now we're kind of seeing that trickle into our little bubble of, we had Chris and Lori Farver from Tri-State Smart Home Solutions on, and they said, the life of a home inspector right now is a little tough because you get people battling, and then finally somebody comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to make this offer, and on top of that, we'll waive the inspection. And so they're missing out on that side because of the super competitiveness of what the real estate market is. When you would think, well, homes are selling quicker and more homes, that their business would be thriving as well, but it's kind of had the opposite effect.
Yeah, that I've talked to them about that, and you're right. It's it's definitely trickled down here to the point where I'm president of the Athens County Board of Realtors, and we have had to come up with special. We kind of provide a lot of the forms for the real estate companies, if you remember, but we've had to, redo a lot of forms for those scenarios, redo our contract to be more user friendly, and kind of combat and deal with those issues, because like you said before, I could count on one hand, how many times we'd be getting in multiple offer situations,
Right.
But now it's almost every house you list, you get maybe one or two, sometimes 10 offers at one time, and to keep things going and everybody on the same page in black and white, and not make everybody mad because somebody loses.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the unfortunate thing. I wish we had more houses that those other people could buy, but so yeah, you're right. I mean, we're seeing so many different trends in the real estate as far as negotiation goes, marketing, advertising. I mean, there's the market, not only in the sales portion of things, but just how real estate is conducted is just changing rapidly.
One of the other things I think that I see has changed. It used to be here at least, and in the cities too. You had the books. So you'd go to your Eastman's grocery store or wherever, and there's the real estate book monthly or whatever. And now you've got places like Zillow and places like that. Has that changed the way you have to sell a house as well?
Well, through like our membership of the Athens County Board of Realtors, we advertise for our membership, and Wiseman Real Estate's part of that. We'll get on 80 Zillow like websites, 80 plus. So we're always trying to add more. And yeah, it's definitely changed. It went from where a market would, or a house would take 3 months to really saturate the market, to now it's maybe a week for a house to really saturate the current market looking, to where it's been fully exposed to the whole market. So some people use those, Zillow websites, Realtor.com. There's, like I said, 80 different ones, but most of the time we're trying to really drive, what we're trying to do anyways, is drive more consumers to our websites, because one thing we are finding is those third parties are gathering their data from other different sources. So if you've noticed, sometimes you'll look on those websites and maybe some of the information is not real accurate. So
the estimate, so to speak.
That, or just other different components you'll see. So we try to drive, our goal anyways is to really start driving people more directly to our website. And that's kind of, I think, a lot of the trend in the real estate is a lot of people's going to be doing that as well.
So one thing that brings people into buying houses is getting them moved back for jobs. And you're very active with the CIC and different avenues that you are involved with economic development here in Gallia County and the area in general. And now we're seeing development at the 35-325 interchange in Rio Grande. We're, I think, soon going to see even more development at the 850 interchange as well. Now with especially 35 open from Charleston all the way with the 4-lane. What do you see as, I tell people all the time, I think we're one big industry, an industry coming in with 100 jobs that pay $25 an hour. I think we're one of those away from an economic boom in Gallia County. What do you see kind of the future from what you're, the stuff that you're involved with the economic development that Gallia County is kind of primed for?
Well, I think, there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and work to try to get, this county to a point where we can really infrastructurally and economically really kind of sustain, that type of a culture. It's still a work in progress, in my opinion. We've got some great assets, as you mentioned, in the industrial park US 35 corridor with very good infrastructure, more infrastructure we're working on improving, and also trying to maybe build some actual buildings to kind of speculate, because there is a big demand for buildings and space. So we're trying to get on that train. A lot of communities have already got on that train. We're trying to push towards that as much as we can, and get as much support as we can to do that. But it just takes so much money. That's what we run into. We're not a multi-million-dollar CIC from my perspective.
Right.
So we need the help from as many partners as we can. So we're trying to form some partnerships, because we've tried for many years now to really try to land that 100 to 1,000 person thing.
Right.
And I think we've just kind of got to the point where we're kind of tired of waiting on them. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to start building things, and hopefully they'll come.
Right. And you mentioned, the things that we have in our, we're river access. Mm-hmm. We have, I guess, some limited rail access as well. Small airport, but still an asset to bring people. And then you have like Buckeye Hills and now what the University of Rio Grande is doing with expanding their program opportunities and things. I think that an industry can look at the environment around here and see, we have a built-in lifeline to future employment. We can partner with a Buckeye Hills, or we can partner with a Rio Grande and say, okay, we're going to be really, this industry needs a lot of welders or a lot of masonry or whatever the case may be. And now you've kind of got a built-in training program to get people into those businesses. And like you said, having the space where they can move in and throw a sign on the front of it and get started is going to be a tremendous asset. And I know that the partnerships that you guys are working on are strong. You've got people who have the connections and the knowledge to get some of those grant opportunities and things like that. So I know that'll do nothing but help the area.
Yeah, I will agree totally. The assets and the education that we have here, in my opinion, are just very progressive and very job oriented. Mm-hmm. And there's so many things going on in that aspect of things to also help drive the economic culture here that I think is just going to add to the future success. But there's a gentleman years ago that told me, we were in a meeting, we were actually talking, it was in Dayton, and we were talking about spec buildings. This may have been 10 or 11 years ago, and this was at the time we were talking about spec buildings, building a it was a security clearance type buildings. That was kind of in the days of a lot of defense contracting type mm-hmm. contracts were out there. So, but anyways, he was actually from here. His name was Arnie, not Barney, but right. Arnie Fife. And I'll never forget. He said, "You got to crawl before you can sprint." Because the society today wants everything right now. Mm-hmm. But he did say that years ago, but I will say that if you look back at I think it was 10 years ago now that a whole conglomerate of people in Gallia County put together the Gallia County Strategic Plan, and you can go right on the Grow Gallia website and find it. But if you look back at a lot of the things that were on in that plan, a lot of those things have been accomplished. There's still a lot of things but it's interesting to look at that plan and look at what we have now over the past 10 years, but I think it's about time to maybe do another one of those and kind of revamp it, and because it just kind of makes, when you see it on paper that you wrote it down, because back then 10 years ago I remember being involved in those
discussions,
and some of those things didn't seem really achievable, but we've achieved them. So I think we're kind of at a jog in terms of Arnie's analogy. I think we're kind of jogging right now, but I'd like to kind of get, I think we're all trying to get towards sprinting on economic development in the area, and I know the community is very hungry for it. So, as far as my involvement in that, I'm kind of involved from the CIC perspective and, land holdings. So, and then we do have the capacity to, partner with county and city and, other entities to try to go after grant monies and that type of thing. But, the project we're looking at right now, if we can put it all together, it's going to be probably around $3 million project. We don't have that kind of money, so that's why we're trying to bring in grants and partners and really to try to create just a spec building, and then possibility of doing 7 to 10 total eventually in the future, and create some cash flow for the CIC to be able to continue to build more and create jobs for the area, or hold or sustain jobs for the area and attract people. So right now out in the industrial park, it's all been local, entrepreneurs that have either expanded, they're an existing business and expanded. There has been one, that moved from Point Pleasant over here, Thompson Trucking. So they relocated over here. Of course, Love's is an out of an area deal there. So, they've been very successful and have a pretty good sales tax that they provide to the county. And a lot of people stop in there. So, I think you hit one thing that I think if we can kind of fully more develop the river and the assets of the river, just what we battle with there is floodplain,
Right.
I could talk about a lot of those things for a while, but, another thing I think privately, my goal has always been to try to invest in the community, so trying to work on some projects like that as well to help improve the community too.
Well, Josh, our time has come to an end already.
Oh my, that was fast.
I appreciate you coming in.
Yes.
I think people will learn a lot kind of about how you got to where you are and the things you're involved in, and we look forward to things to come and the growth that Gallia County I think has in its path. We're going to go ahead and record next week's episode of Talk of the Town tomorrow with Gallia County Chamber of Commerce Board President Amanda Amon. We'll give you a little bit of a Chamber 2021 review and a little bit of a preview of what we think we might be able to get done here in the next year as 2022 creeps up on us rather quickly. So until then, thanks for listening, and we'll see you then.
Thank you, Josh.